Okay, so right now we will now exploring our first statistical tool under data analysis Toolpak, and that is correlation. So before we jump into the actual implementation, so of course first let's define first what is correlation. So correlation just aims to compare two sets of data to determine if there is any relationship between them. So we want to look at if is there a linear relationship between these two continuous variables, right? So for a use case where we can actually apply this, if we had two continuous variables and we are aiming to look at quantifying the strength of the linear relationship between those two variables. But in most cases, actually, we are not just interested in two continuous variables. Oftentimes, we are interested in more than two continuous variable. We are looking at if is there any possible two continuous variable that has a high correlation with each other. So in working with a lot of data with a lot of features of variable, that is often the case where we are not just interested in two variables, we are interested in a lot of continuous variables and looking which two variables have a high correlation with each other. Okay, so to do that in using data analysis Toolpak, so we just need to actually perform this 8-step process here. Okay, so to implement correlation using data analysis Toolpak, we just need to perform this. So first, we just need to open the data analysis Toolpak, add in. Under the analysis tool, we just need to look at correlation and click that and click OK. And once we click OK, it will show us this window here named correlation, and it has a few inputs. And the first input is the input range, and here it's column C and F, and it's actually here in the screenshot. So here for the input range, we want this column C to column F and up to their last row. So we're just selecting this 4 columns as input range because we are interested in this 4 contiguous variable. So yeah, so this is our input range. So these are the columns that we want to look at their correlation with each other. Okay, the next one is group by. So for this one, in this case, we are grouped by columns because we selected based on this structure, the data is grouped by 4 columns. After that, just need to select labels in first row to indicate that our first row contains our column name or header. And for the output option, we selected cell H1 here as our output range, as this is the target area where we want our output report to be placed. Okay, so once we set up all here, then we just need to click OK, and once we click OK, it will just show up this simple output report here. Okay, so right now, let's now go to our exercise file under correlation tab to implement this in actual. So okay, so right now we just have the actual data that we have about different foods and their macronutrient. So I just filtered out all other columns so that we can focus on these 4 four columns here: calorie, protein, total fat, and carbohydrates. And this highlighted cell here is where we want to place our correlation report, or the output of that analysis that we will be doing. So to start, let's just go to the data tab, and under data tab, let's go to the analysis and click data analysis. Okay, right now we are in the data analysis Toolpak. Just click on correlation. Okay, so it now shows us the correlation dialog box. So we just need to fill in the inputs. So for the input range, our input range is from column C to F. We just need to select that. Okay, group by it is already selected by columns, and we just need to check this one, labels in the first row, again to indicate that our first row doesn't contain data, it contains the column name or the header. Okay, so for the output option, just need to select output range and indicate where the output range is. In our case, it will be H1, this one here. And after that, just check if we miss something, and if not, we can just click OK. Okay, so right now we just implemented the 8-step process that we just seen in the previous slide. So right now we now have the correlation matrix. So we call that correlation matrix because we are now looking at multiple continuous variables. So here it is, right? So there is this diagonal data, or the diagonal part of the matrix is 1 because it is just the correlation of a particular variable to itself. For example, that is the correlation of calorie to calorie, protein to protein, and that will be 1 because it will be always a variable will be always highly correlated with itself. Okay, and then there's no data here because it will just repeat this data here. So that is the reason why we don't have data for this one. So these are just the important data points that we actually have here. So to interpret this, for example, if we are looking at what is the correlation between total fat and calorie, and the answer to that is it is 80.77%, because that is the value here. And if we're looking at other combination of variable, for example, the correlation of, or the strength of relationship between carbohydrates and total fat, it is a negative 10.94%, which is actually really low. So there's a low relationship between carbohydrates and total fat, so meaning they are not really dependent on one another. But for this one, for the total fat and calorie, we can say that as total fat increase, so as the calorie also increases, right? Because it is close to 1. Okay, so that's it. That's for the output of the data analysis correlation tool. And Actually, if you're familiar with Excel formulas, you can actually also replicate this exact numbers using an Excel formulas, which is Corel, which is I already have here. And so using the Excel formula, we can also implement this one, but it will be a very tedious job if you're looking at a lot of variables. It will be okay if you're looking at 2 or 3 variables, but if there's a lot, it will be very tedious. And the best option in that case will be using data analysis Toolpak. Okay, just to show you how we can actually get this exact numbers using Excel formula is actually here, right? So for example, if we're looking at correlation between calorie and protein, which we already have here, calorie and protein, this 13.52, we can get that same number using the formula equals Corel. So actually it's actually here, right? So for the Corel formula, I just input the calorie and also the protein column, and if we click enter, notice that we get the same number here and here. Let me just highlight those. Okay, and the same case if we are looking at correlation between calorie and total fat, which is 80.77. That 80.77 is this one. And the last one is this, actually by calorie by carbohydrates, which this one 43.47. we also have this 43.47. Okay, so yeah, so that's it. So I just show you how we can use Excel formula to just replicate this one. But again, if in most cases we need to deal with a lot of continuous variables that we need to examine their correlation with each other, so the best option for that is to use the data analysis toolbox.